right, men, welcome back to the call. I'm here with Dr. Scott Whittle, and we're excited that you are catching on, that you are liking the show and getting a lot of positive feedback, reaching people all across the United States and hopefully further in the near future. And it's good to be back, Scott. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute.
It has, yeah. We've had a lot of things going on, and we've dropped a lot of short videos that are really catching fire, especially anything to do with kids and men sleeping.
Yes.
We've had a lot of catch a lot of fire with those, and so in that, just seeing that is exciting to be a part of that. But hey, today we've decided to do something different. We got some interns in the house, and so they are running our cameras. And Alejandro and Andrew are some young guys that Scott somehow
I conned them into it.
Into being a part of this podcast, and so we're excited to have them. We believe that God's got a big plan for their future, and we're hoping that it starts right here in this little bitty room. The upper room at HH Studios, and so we're excited to have them with us, and they are fixing to go for the ride of their life. Right?
That is it. You better hang on and strap in.
That's
what
right.
I'm talking about.
It's going to be nothing like anything at Six Flags. It's going to be a lot of fun. So we're excited about that, and we're really trying to move this thing along, Scott, and we're trying to build it, and we're trying to get it, get this monster rolling, and Scott's been behind the scenes working super hard to get. We got merch now.
Everybody's got a little merch on here. Everybody look out here. So, hoping this stuff will be available here pretty soon.
Yeah, and it's we kind of went over what our logo meant, stood for last week, and we're hoping to get some more merch out there. Scott's really hooked us up, and he's been working hard on that behind the scenes. Getting this merch ready to get out. What are some future things that we got going on, Scott?
I'll say this. One is we're going to produce a website. These interns are laughing now because they're probably thinking, oh God, I don't know how to do this. We're going to do a website. Hopefully we'll have a link where you'll be able to buy the merchandise online. We're in the process of doing a 501c. We're setting that up as a nonprofit. We've got a lot of goals that we've love to get out, charities that we'd love to give to, places and things that we'd like to go see, that we would love to come out and be a part of your churches or your ministries, or be a part of your hunting camps, that we could help you guys out. Just trying to bring our message to you. I sometimes feel like a broken record, Stacey. I tell people this all the time, but it's kind of a life's passion. These things in life, nothing stays the same. Right? The world is always turning, so you got to be moving as it goes. And I'm kind of a mover and shaker. Once I get, I love it. I had a friend last night call me up, and he needed me working on a dryer at 11 o'clock at night. And he goes, "I never thought you would come." And I said, "If I tell you I'm coming, I'm coming. If I'm going to do something and I tell you it's going to be on, it's going to be on."
And that's all a part of about being a man. That is keeping your word, or and that loyalty, and that's. Some of the things I was taught by my grandfather is if I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and that you can hold me to it, and so doing those men things
or moving hot tubs on Sunday.
That's right. Yeah. Yesterday we moved a hot tub for our pastor, and it took about 30 men to move a hot tub, and so but we had a good time doing it and made some jokes and had some fun. And
now I definitely understand how Moses felt.
That's right.
building the pyramids.
Yes, yeah, and how Noah felt building the ark and stuff. And so, but it's been an incredible weekend. Just to get to talk about that. I spent the weekend with about 300 students at D Now, and I realized one thing, Scott. I'm not as young as I used to be. And I don't know if I can hang with these teenagers anymore or not. And so, but I was so tired yesterday, and the pastor sent a text out to all of us, said, "Hey, can you help me move a hot tub?" I'm like, Jesus, please, So I volunteered 3 of my boys at my house. I was like, "Hey, y'all coming? Y'all gonna move this thing?"
You're committed.
That's right. And so they all showed up for that, and so that was a good time. It was fun. We had a fun time. And so, anything going on with you, Scott? How was your weekend?
Oh, crazy, crazy! It's still working on boats, Stacy. I'm deep into the electrical now. I fried my Jeep earlier last week, putting a jump pack on it, so I've had to rewire my Jeep and the wiring harness. So I've learned a lot of technical skills that some things I'm good at, some things I'm not. Sometimes you have to call people when you definitely need help, and I've had to do that this past week. So we're all of us is in preparation for guys that are hunters. These downtimes between the seasons before turkey season gets really up and running. I'm also scouring the discount aisles for you guys that are not paying attention. There's a lot of great deals. These people don't sponsor us, but I mean, there's Rogers Outdoor Sports. If you guys are into R&T calls, that have got some great discounts going out. The other thing is looking at one of my favorite is the Dive Bomber stuff. They're not a sponsor of ours, but I use their equipment and love their stuff. They have some great discounts that are going out to there. So you guys that are looking at it from a cost standpoint, which I think that's always a conscientious thing when you're starting out or if you're young and you're trying to buy the best and latest equipment, sometimes you can't always get it all at one time, right? We live in a generation where I think every young person thinks that, oh, I'll snap my fingers and I'll have the money that my parents have. That doesn't always happen, right? So it's a plan. It's a systematic thing. So I'm a big person on list. And things that you need, I always tell people to write down the things you need. So every time you don't see this in here, but I'm normally writing lists down, and I'll make myself a note, and I need this or I need that. So as the off season comes, I try to prepare myself for the following season.
That's
right?
it, yeah. And that's how you do it, because really everything from waterfowl goes on sale this time of year, because we're coming out of waterfowl season, duck season, and so you can find some really good stuff for low prices, and then what you're going to pay during the season, so that's what you need to be out there. If you that's how I built all of my stuff. I can't afford, people's like, man, how can you afford to wear that brand, or how can you afford that boat, or how can you it's looking, it's putting back money, it's and finding those discounts. I mean, I used to buy a lot of stuff used off of Facebook yard sale, and all of my Sitka stuff came from Facebook yard sale until a few weeks ago. But and so
I think that's another thing is my recommendation for you guys that are starting out. Right, you may not be able to afford everything, but buy quality. Right?
Oh yeah.
Buy quality on the front end. It will last. I joke about it. I probably got these interns are in here that we're going to laugh, but I probably got hunting outfits that are way out of season, and they're probably 30 years old, right? That look just like new. And I'm laughing now because after the NFTW, the National Wildlife Turkey Federation event in Nashville, everything that's old is new again. Everybody's going back to the old stuff. So, man, I'm going to be in style, Stacy.
Yeah, and you're funny you said that. My boys were going through some of my old vintage stuff that my uncle and my dad left. My uncle just passed away. He left me a bunch of his green leaf stuff from Mossy Oak, and I mean it's vintage. I mean it is vintage, and they're like, hey, can we borrow this? Like, Dad, can we? And I'll see them wearing it to church. I'm like, dude, you been in my closet? It's like, well, it's down in the hunting room. I just thought we could wear it.
Yeah.
But it's coming back in, and anything you can get like that at a discount, I would encourage you to do that. And
check eBay. All these vintage and thrift stores. Perfect example. I'll give you an example. This past weekend, this doesn't seem like much, but this call was like $2, right?
Oh yeah.
And this call, if you look at it online, it's probably about a $40 to $50 call, right?
Yeah.
So I always encourage people, get out there and look for stuff. You never know what somebody's going to sell or what somebody has, or if there's old people in flea markets, that you're walking out there, or yard sales, pick those up. Go in there and look at the stuff. A lot of times they may even give you the stuff just to get it out of their house.
And that's great advice. That's good stuff. I mean, and that's the way you do it. You can't, like you said, you can't do it overnight. You can't just go, like most everyday average people can't go and buy a whole outfit or go buy everything they need for, a season. And so I've been collecting this stuff for years, and some of my preaching money, I got a little honey hole that I had my money from my wife. I know she's not going to listen to this, so I can say this, but I had my money from her, these little holes that I get from preaching, or if I'm speaking somewhere and I get a love offering or a gift.
That's your mad money.
That's my mad money. That's the money I put in that little hiding hole. to buy, things I need. And so that's good advice for you young men out there.
Yeah.
Okay? Always have your little stash somewhere where you can just go buy what you need. All right. And so, and then when she says, "Hey, where'd you get that? I've had this. I've had it. What are you talking about?"
Well, I joke about it. So Stacy knows. I'm not going to mention names, but I have a fraternity brother from college. It's actually one of Sitka, one of their first hires for the Sitka brand, right? And he's worked for them for several years. And when Sitka first came out as a brand, I joked and I called him up on the phone and I was like, "Dude, this stuff is super expensive." I said, "How in the world is the average hunter going to be able to afford this?" And never in a million years did I think that people's on there. And his advice was, "Have you tried it?" And I was like, "No, because I can't afford it," right? And I joke about it as when I got to the point where I could afford it, immediately that was my preferred brand. I love their stuff. I think it does a great job.
Yeah.
It's very durable. It's
great quality stuff.
Yeah, lightweight, warm. It covers a lot of things for other stuff. If you've hunted over the years and stuff that was super bulky or hot during the turkey season, you wake up and it's freezing cold, and then about midday you're sweating like
you've
like
got to
a
start
miner in
taking
a
layers,
coal mine.
taking layers off. And it's still 28 degrees
Yeah.
outside, but you're taking layers off because it does what it is supposed to do. And just to be real with y'all, I was anti-Sitka for a long time, just because I couldn't afford it, to be honest with you. And I thought, well, but when you go through 30 or 40, sets of waders in 20 years, you're like, man, there's something to these Sitka waders that you buy one pair for life, and that's what I encourage you, young man, if you can do that, buy one pair for life. We're by, like you said, by no way sponsored by Sitka or anything. We told you guys in the beginning that we're going to bring you things that we've tried, that we've tested in the field, and if it works, then we'll tell you if it works, and if it don't, we'll tell you that it doesn't work. Don't spend your money there, don't waste your money on that. And so that's why there's so much hype about Sitka and these other brands. And but yeah, that's good stuff. That's good advice for anybody who's in the hunting world. And even if you're not in the hunting world, man, if you want some good quality warm stuff, they make like this is, they make like, they make stuff that's not camouflage.
Right.
That is really cool looking quality stuff. And so, but yeah, I would encourage you just check it out. This time of year is a good time, this lay time where you're between duck season and turkey season. My mind has done switched. I'm thinking turkeys. I'm looking for turkeys.
Yeah.
I'm going around with a diaphragm in my mouth all day long, working on my call, and just looking at every field that I pass, just to see if there's turkeys in the field. And so that's where my mind doesn't switch to.
I know. Now you got me doing it. It's probably, and me and Stacy had this conversation. It's probably been 25 years since I've turkey hunted. I was a big time turkey hunter in the early 90s. Probably what made me fall in love with hunting was turkey hunting. I always used to joke. I said, if this animal could smell you, you would never kill it.
Or hear you. Yeah. If it could smell or hear you, never would kill a turkey.
It is that keen of a bird, and the thrill of just getting close enough to one, right, is an incredible experience, and a level of skill that it takes. But what happened is, as I grew older, my son was a big time fisherman. And we started striper fishing. Stripers start running this time of year, so as a result, I started striper fishing and kind of left turkey hunting. It's still a love, and I love to do it. So I'm like Stacy. Stacy's done got me pumped up. He done made me spend some money, people. I'm just telling y'all right now, this man has made me go out. It's joke. Don't let him lie to you. Because he's the one that got me started in this duck hunting stuff. And I've told my wife, I said, I look like a girl going to a prom. I bought things for years, had stuff set up. It looked like I had a ballroom dress, right? And I'm sitting there, and I'd always say, somebody's going to take me. And my wife would go, why do you keep buying this stuff? You're never going to go. I was like, I'm going.
Yeah.
And then once I went, I loved it, right? So now I'm hooked on it, and I enjoy doing it. It's just... And I love it. We had this whole conversation. I had a conversation with my son, and I'm going to give him credit for it, because he actually had a conversation with a non-hunter a couple of weeks ago, and he was with one of his buddies, and the guy asked him, says, "Why do y'all love doing that?" He said, it's all about the camaraderie. And this guy loves football, right? And he understands camaraderie. He loves every Saturday afternoon that he's at the football games, and it's that same excitement that comes from being at these football games or something that you're a part of or an organization you're part of. Hunting kind of drives that same momentum that you find the right group. Now, every group's different, right, Stacey? You got to find people that you love to be around. That's first of all, and that people have the same kind of value system as far as being a hunter. I think that's another thing. I joke about it. Me and Stacey said the last podcast that we wish that we'd started hunting a couple of years ago. Is we feed off of each other. I think it's an excitement, but it's also a lot of fun that he laughs at what I laugh at, or he laughs at me when I make a mistake. And at the same time, at the end of the day, we're patting each other on the back of the shoulder and saying, "Hey, man, we'll see you next week, right?"
Same time, same place.
If you can't make it, please call me. That's what you say.
And I think that's one of the things that kind of brought us together is that passion. You know, I see that passion in Scott. He is passionate about it. Matter of fact, he beats me to the boat ramp every morning when we go. You know, and he's there. He's ready to go, and just his passion lights the flame to my passion, and we're just, you know, we're bouncing off each other. And if we don't kill a duck, we still had a good time.
Oh
we
yeah,
had an amazing time. But let's have a conversation, Scott. I wanted to have a conversation, kind of just to kind of let the listeners get to know us. They don't have a clue who we are. We're just two guys in North Georgia who have a passion for the outdoors, who want to help men become better men, and you know, to use our resources to help them be better men, better fathers, better dads, better, you know, citizens, and, you know, stronger followers of Christ, and help them in their walk with God, because we all need help, you know what I mean? And that's the good thing about duck hunting and any hunting is we need help, you know, and so we're here to help. And so just for fun, real quick, Scott, let me ask you these questions. A 170 class deer or a 10-man limit on mallards?
10 limit on mallards is more than a 170 to me.
Well, it's better. All right. So, all right.
What would you say?
I'm with you. I'm probably a 10-man limit because this is so much fun. I've done it. You know, probably a 10-man. That's what I would say. A 10-man limit on mallards. All right. So let's see. A 75-pound striper or a 200-pound marlin.
Oh, I would have to say the marlin, because that's on my bucket list, Stacey. I am going, and you're going with me, because when I get tired, I'm going to have to pass the rod off to somebody.
If you guys listen to this podcast long enough, I have two sayings that I love to use. You can't threaten me with a good time, and I'm down like 4 flat tires. And so that's me. I'm down like 4 flat tires. And so, all right, flooded timber or a rice field?
I have hunted both, and I'm going to say this. The flooded timber is the most incredible experience if you have never been in. And I say that as a person who was a novice, and the first time that I went, I had never been duck hunting in my life, right? And got to go into flooded timber, which a lot of people have never got to hunt flooded timber. It's so the view, take away the whole experience of even shooting at one. Just the view of watching those ducks fly through those trees is the most incredible thing that I have ever seen. And it is like an experience that you've never experienced before.
It's spiritual. It is. Yeah. It's spiritual. It really is, to see that. And so,
it's one of those special gifts. I joke about it. When the first time I saw it, I looked at my buddy and I go, I cannot believe that I'm this old and have waited this long to see this. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And the big thing that I also love about duck hunting, right, is growing up as a kid, my dad was an avid quail hunter, and I think that's one of the reasons why I didn't like hunting so much, right? And people say, why is that? Because my dad always had the responsibility of taking care of the dogs. I absolutely hated it, right? I hated them being pinned up. I just hated that. But my dad, that was kind of like golf to them. They would go quail hunting, and the one thing, the joy that I did get from that was watching the dogs work. That's another cool thing, is to watch an animal that has the respect for the owner and follows his commands, right?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And I think you've done a couple of videos already that we've already kind of thrown out there to you. It's not only the lessons of training a dog, but it's also a lesson for you as a man, learning the obedience of coming back to God. There's a lot of correlations that go with that, and you see yourself as the dog, right?
Exactly, yeah. And being close to God and being by His side, and that's where He wants us to be. So, yeah. So let's, for this podcast, I'm going to interview Scott and just go through some questions and just let you get to know who Scott Whittle is
That's scary.
I think everybody, I believe everybody should know who Scott Whittle is. Everybody should have a friend or a person in their life like Scott Whittle. And so we just want to know a little bit about your life, a little bit about your background, Scott. What was your childhood like?
I was an only child, and that somebody forgot to tell my parents that I was an only child, because only children are supposed to be revered and taken care of and given everything that they're supposed to be. My parents, my parents didn't get that lesson, right? And I say that it's not because they didn't try. My mom, I definitely say, was the workhorse in our family. She set the work pace. Watching her struggle as a young man made me struggle, and I say that is the thing. The lessons that I try to teach you guys are not lessons from somebody who has done everything right. Trust me, that is not me. I'm probably wise because I have been drugged. As I tell Stacy, I said I got drugged by God from both sides of the ditches with a bloody nose.
So you had a drug problem. You had a drug problem when you was a kid.
I definitely drug everywhere, and I say this, that I was very fortunate that at a young age I had a couple of good guys that kind of pointed me in the right direction. I wish I had more mentors. I think that's lacking in this day and age, that men, they're so busy trying to make a living and trying to take care of their families that they sometimes neglect. And I used to be one of those, right? I'm going to first say it. I was a person who was a workaholic at the detriment of my first marriage, right? So the lessons that I give you guys, a lot of times these lessons are that you don't make the same mistakes I made, all right? I don't want you to see it. If I can help you or you learn something from me, that it would help you out. I try to say that. And it took me a while to realize that it's more important, and I'll tell you this, when it really hit me is I had a guy that worked for me, and he was in his early 40s, and he developed a rare form of leukemia, all right? And this poor guy would come in every week and try to work, right? And he was always on time, did the same thing, and I always joked with him one day, and he wanted to come in on Saturday, and he had already been taking chemo treatments, and I said, dude, you're weak. I mean, you just go home. And he wouldn't go home. And it just hit me one day, and I always tell this thing. He was a non-believer, all right, and at the time he didn't get this, but I said, I'll tell you what, I want you to do me a favor. On your way home, I want you to stop at every graveyard on the way home. I said, if you find one epitaph on a headstone that says that he was a great worker, that he was here every day, he was here early, he worked overtime, he came in on every Sunday, every Saturday, and he did all this stuff for the company. I said, if you find me one, I told him, I said, I'll kiss your butt in Dalton, Georgia. So I say that in constant, and he came back and he said, I've never seen it. I said, what did they say? He said, oh, he's a great father. He was a loving husband, right? And I said, so in context, we drive by these graveyards all the time, but in all honesty, if that's what you're remembered for, because think about it. Once you die and your kids pass away and your grandkids pass away, they don't know who you are, right? Yeah, so if you're going to be known, it's by whatever that epitaph says. So if what we're going to be known for and what we're going to be valued for is the person of the time that we dwelt on what was really important was being a family person, right? Mm-hmm. And the people that we need to focus our energies on those things. It really had a profound effect on me as a young manager, that I turned around and said, you know what? Maybe I need to take my own advice. I mean, I'm doing this thing wrong. And I really started to change a lot of things in my life, to change how this thing's on there.
That's good. So in thinking that way, what do you value most in life?
Family.
Family, yeah.
Absolutely. The first thing is your family. And that's, to me, it's God, family, and then all of your friends that come after that. And if you put those in order, and I say that, you got to set the priorities, right? It's hard to do it in this day and age. It's so many things pull at you and pull your attention away. You have to focus on those things that are the most important. And I give advice to my son-in-law. I give advice to both my son-in-laws, and I try to give it to my son. And I said, you know, you guys are young. You're trying to get known. You're trying to get established, and you don't lose sight of what's really important.
Yeah. And, you know, and not just his son-in-laws and son. I think people drop their kids off here all the time at the office and say, spend some time with Scott. And so, but what's one life lesson you've learned that you think someone should know?
I think that the life lesson that's probably the most important thing, is how you value other people. And sometimes we put value on what other people can do for us, but if you look at it at what you can do for other people, right? It's helping to get somebody started. It's helping to pull somebody forward. And I tell my kids that all the time. I said, once you get to a certain point, and I'm going to give you an easy analogy. Several years ago, when I was a very young man, I met Stephen Jobs, right? Thought it was the greatest thing in the world, right? So you meet him. I met Wojnarowski. I met both of them. And I look at those guys, and they made all this money, right? But in the end, they cannot accept, Stephen Jobs couldn't defeat death, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things that you look at is, in the end, it's what you can do for other people. Now, I'm not saying that Stephen Jobs was the person to immortalize or to do that, but I think that if you pull people along, that we as a person, it had to transform me into that person. And I think everybody that knows me, one of the things that I'm all the time is I try to be the bigger cheerleader, right? I'm the guy that's trying to, if you got something or you're wanting to do something, interns, you're sitting here, you guys are that same way. I mean, we were sitting here. I try to get you a part. I want to get you. I am very good at affecting people to get excited about things. Yeah. That's what I do. That is my skill set, Stacy.
Well, I told him last week, I said, Scott, you're like Walt Disney. You make a dream come true. I mean, he does. And he's amazing. He's just got that gift. He has that gift. And you know that's not just, given by himself. It was given by something higher than him. And
I definitely believe that.
But yeah, and so that's good. That's a great life lesson. I think everybody needs to really take in, and you men really write that down and really focus on that. Let's get into the hunting part. So, how did you first get into hunting?
Great story. My dad was a big time hunter. I absolutely hated it. I didn't want to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Sure wasn't going to get up on a Saturday and go somewhere, right? My dad wasn't so successful, all right? And I didn't see it as an early age of him bringing back big bucks, or turkey hunting really wasn't a thing. And what happened is, as I became a young adult, I got moved as part of a job promotion. And I basically got conned into my dad that I had to make him a commitment. And in that deal, when I moved, I had to promise that I would go turkey hunting. Turkey hunting was kind of new. It was kind of a novice thing. People were getting on there. So I make the transition. I move and was a couple hours away from my dad. And I met a unique individual, which is probably my mentor in hunting. His name is Ronnie Goins. RG, as we like to call him, and he is like cuz off of the hunter specialty. He is one of my favorite people, and he got me hooked on turkey hunting, got me into these. I told him, I said, man, I made my dad a commitment. I got to figure out something. I don't know anything about this. He goes, I'm going to set it up, Scott. Don't worry about it. So we took off to this place, and it was supposed to be, it looked like a sharecropper's cabin. And I always tell the story. I said, we drove in, it was supposed to be all you could eat. We thought we were getting into this great hunting club. Came in there, the woman is cooking fish sticks and stirring Kool-Aid with a jar when I walk in the house, and I go, what in the world has this man signed me up for?
Yeah.
And we laughed because the events that happened on that hunting trip lit a fire under me, and it became one of those things that I enjoyed. It would get to the point, I'll tell you how bad I was. He and I would go hunting during lunch hour at the place. We at least property, we would leave work. We knew we had an hour lunch. We had it timed to the max that we would hit the woods. We had all our clothes. We'd go hunting there. We'd get off, get back in the car, come back to work, and then we would do it again in the evening every day. And then we joke about it. Went from turkey hunting into deer hunting. We never duck hunted. I never duck hunted it at the time. But then it was rabbit hunting. Oh, we got to do rabbit hunting, right? I'm into that. So it became a 360 around the clock thing that we were, and I was always excited about what the next hunting season was going to be.
So in thinking that, what is, in your mind, is there any hunting experience or any tradition that you cherish, or that you have been passed down through your generations? Anything like, just something that you just cherish every year? Is there any specific hunting trip or anything that just comes to your mind that just stands out, like this is the trip, man, that really...
Well, I will say this. Deer hunting used to be such a big thing, and me and Ronnie used to have a thing that every opening weekend we started hunting together. First of all, I didn't like to go and drink when I went on a hunting camp. That was not my kind of thing. So I went with him. He and I would set it up. We would try to plan a thing. So then it became an ordeal. We'd bring all these people, right? We have a big barbecue. We would do telling stories, playing practical jokes on people, and I'll have to tell you that at a later time, all the practical jokes. We were known as the practical jokesters. Me and Terry Crow, which you guys will meet later, would play practical jokes on people all the time. And we were known for doing all kinds of practical jokes. That became kind of a thing. And as my son grew up, he cherished that, right? He would always look forward to going on that. And hey, when are we going this year? Has Ronnie got us a place picked out? Is that kind of thing. Since deer hunting has kind of passed away and we don't do as much deer hunting as we used to, it's become now more of a duck hunting trip. So once a year, me and my son and several of his buddies, they have gotten together and we do this annual duck hunting trip, right? And we tell everybody, we plan it. We say, this is the weekend we're going. Make sure you got your stuff ready to go. If you can't make it, just tell us that you're not going to make it, but we're going. So, and that, I say this, the pictures that you see behind us up here on the wall are pictures from those experiences, which the memories, I'm going to say this, as you get old, and Stacy and I are a part of that every day in the business that we do, and you see a lot of these elderly people, the only thing they have is their memories, right?
That's right, yeah.
And it doesn't matter about the money. It's all about the memories. And I tell my son that all the time. I said, I can't buy no more time. Time you can't buy, right? So you need to value the time that you have and spend it with the ones that you love, because as you get older, those are the things that you remember. I'm going to say this. Anybody that's ever think about Christmas, right? Your parents buy you presents. How many of y'all remember them? But you remember every vacation that they took you somewhere, right?
That's true, yeah.
That's kind of the thing. Those memories that you made, good or bad, are memories that are made that are trips that you can never take away from somebody.
That's so true. And rolling into the next thing and to the next question is with life being so busy and schedules and all of that, how do you make time for hunting? I mean, I know that you're a weekend warrior.
Yeah.
But how do you make time for your hobbies, hunting, being a man, being a family man? Family meaning so much to you, spending time with your family. How do you make time for that?
I think it's I laugh. My wife always says, if I get one more hobby, she's going to kill me. Yeah. That's what she says. The one thing that as a person, I think if you know Scott Whittle, I love to learn, right? I am an avid reader, and I never was an avid reader when I was younger. I became an avid reader. So if you were to go into my bedroom or my living room, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I do a ton of reading. I mean, I always joke about it. I said, I am great at cocktail parties. If you need a subject, I know enough to be dangerous. That is it. But I try to make sure that I'm in there. So to answer your question, when I start doing this stuff, I think it's prioritizing, right? I know what I want to do. I know what time I want to do it. And I'm going to adjust my schedule and plan for everything. It's like a list, right? So perfect example is duck hunting. We know that we got to be up early, we got to be there early, we got to get to bed early, right? Mm-hmm. You set the priorities. But the one important thing that I think that I could give you guys is, as a man, in the world that pulls from you, you also have to be able to say no. We have gotten into a society where everybody expects an answer from you and they want an immediate answer, right? You guys go to school? Hey, I got to have an answer by 2:00, right? You got the point is you cannot do everything. You have to sometimes prioritize what's important to you, and you have to be able to say, hey, no, I can't do that. And when you start saying no and prioritizing what's important to you, those are the things when you see that your life starts to change.
That's right. And I think too, with our weekend hunting, we're usually done, duck hunting here in Georgia, we're done by 10 o'clock. And so we have a lot of time to spend with our families after that. Yeah. But I know also with hunting trips, a lot of times we plan those with our wives.
That is true. That is true.
And so we got to make sure they're on board and they're okay with it. And so, but scheduling is everything. It's important, especially if you're a hunter. How do these outdoor activities help you unwind, Scott? How do they recharge you from the work week that you have? Because I know you got a lot on you. Yeah. You got a lot of stress, a lot of things happening. So how does that help you?
I always call it my quan.
Your quan?
It's my quan. I like to use that. I saved that from Jerry McGuire. Okay, it's my quan. That I'm going to say this: anybody that gets in the woods early and you're there before daybreak, when you start to see the world come alive, to me that is also some of the most tranquil time where I can think. I can get my thoughts together of what I'm going to do. And sometimes you need to be alone, right? We're in a society where you're connected by everything, right? Your iPhone, it used to be pagers, and then it was everything else, and everybody's got an immediate access to you. You have to be able to stop and reflect on what is truly important. It's like meditation, right? And I'm not a person who meditates, but I think there's a lot of good things that come from that, because there's a lot of times of being alone with themselves that they have to prioritize what's important in their life. And I do that. In my mind, I'll be sitting there, and Stacy will laugh because sometimes he thinks, I know he thinks I'm asleep, because I have been known to snore. Now, I am a quick sleeper, but that's my power naps. I have to do a 15-second power nap and I'll be good to go.
And listen, and those are good. Those power naps are amazing. I'm there with you on that. So I take a lot of power naps myself because you're just so tired. I mean, really, you're just wore out.
And I think as you get older, and I always joke about it, for me, it hit me about 38 years old. I was the workaholic, wide open, high-level energy person all day, every day. That was the thing. And when I hit 38 years old, I woke up one morning and thought, oh man, I got a pain. I ain't never had this pain before. And I wasn't moving as fast as I thought it was, right? So especially as you get older, you realize that you can't do everything. And you have to also allow other people to do stuff for you. That was something that I had a hard time as a man doing, because I thought I knew a lot about different things, and I thought I had to get involved in it, right? Mm-hmm. My wife used to joke about it. She'd say, Scott, you need to focus on what's important. And I say that my wife is a key proponent of the person who I am. She is a direct reflection, and I listen to her. She's probably my true closest friend is my wife. And she is a person that when I'm bad or I do things that she doesn't approve of, she's the first one that calls me out on it, right? And I know she's right. I may not want to admit it, but I know that she's right. But a lot of times I have to reflect that, and I value her opinion. I don't harbor her for making a comment, and she could say things to me that other people couldn't say to me. I mean, really, that would be the thing. And the other thing is, I've gotten older, is I'm a lot less high-tempered. As a young man, I was a very high-tempered person, and temperance, if I can tell you something, is subdue that, right? I used to tell my son, and I'm not proud of it, but I mean, somebody would say something to me, and man, I would fly mad in a heartbeat, and I would hit you before I would even know it. I mean, that was just who I was. Yeah. And I hated that. I felt like I was out of control, and I think I was out of control. But I didn't have somebody that I respected at the time that would sit down and say, hey dude, that's not the way you handle this conflict. There's better ways of doing it. Let's talk it out. And Stacy's worked around me as in this business, and one of the things that I always tell everybody, my door is always open, man. If you got a problem or there's an issue, please, let's sit down and talk about it. And sometimes it hurts, right? Because people hit you with the truth, and you're not ready for the truth. And sometimes you have to be a big enough man to sit around and accept the criticism that comes with it and not hold it personal. It's not personal. It's trying to get something out on the table.
And that's good. That's good stuff. And so just keep rolling with these questions. Looking back, what advice would you give to your younger self?
Oh man, definitely slow down. I think that was a big thing. I always joke about it because, and I say this now because I work for my wife. A lot of people say, I don't know if I can work with your wife. My wife had a vision several years ago. If you guys don't know it, I'll tell you a brief history, is that she wanted to start a hospice company, and she worked for a hospice company, and she was not real thrilled with all the things that they were doing. And she would come to me, and at the time I was a plant manager, had a lot of people that reported to me, and they would come in every day, and I was like, dude, Wendy, I mean, you can't bring all this stuff and dump it on me. You got to come up with solutions, right? And I'm that kind of person. Don't just drop the ball. Give me a solution, because I don't have all the answers. And one day through a coffee, we were sitting there talking, and I looked at her and I said, you got to start with you got to do your own. And she looked at me and she took off with it. And I always joke about it. In a million years, I never thought I would work for her, but I wound up coming to work for her, and it's probably the best job I've ever had, right? And in that process, I think you have to be a big enough person as a younger person, slow down, because I always said if I knew what I wanted to do, I would be very good at it. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think as a young person, or even men in their middle ages, they're very good at certain skill sets, but they cannot find the niche to do that. So I always tell you, if you slow down, focus on what you're very good at, and think of that and concentrate it and find something that you enjoy doing in life. Because I worked in jobs that I absolutely hated. Getting up every day, I hated working at them. And I wanted this place. And he jokes about it. I'll tell people that. Stacey, I do a kudos to us. I always tell everybody here, I want to be the dumbest person in my organization. That's the rule number one. And this thing is a paradigm shift, right? When you come to work with us, we're different than everybody else. It's not going to be the same, right? Because I tried to learn from all the bad lessons of the people that I had worked for to try to do that. Because I think if you have a secure work life, it changes who you are as a person, right? It gives you a sense of security, but it also gets you to a point that you get to do what you enjoy doing. And for you guys that don't know, I used to be a plant manager for a flooring manufacturing company. Worked in engineering for several years, got into the management side of it, and I always used to laugh. I said I would sit there and watch carpet roll down and flooring roll down a assembly line, but I never got to see the end result. I never got to see people get happy, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it was always a conflict. I always joked about it. I said, are we doing life-saving stuff here? Because everything was always a rush. I was thinking, nobody just woke up today and wanted to have their floor in their house. Yeah. So I didn't understand what the rush was. But and it's not that those jobs are bad. It's just me, that wasn't me. I had to find something where I had the interaction with people, and that's something that I liked in my life that I wish that if I could have found that out as a young man, it would have changed who I would have been. I think I would have been a lot more successful a lot sooner, is what I think by that.
That's good stuff. This has been an amazing interview. I mean, it really has.
Well, I'm glad you got to. You get to know a lot about me, Stacey. You may not want anything.
Well, listen, I don't know that we can top this interview. It's been a really good interview. A lot of good advice. A lot of good, education for young men and men alike of all ages to just maybe glean from that, pull from that. If there's, I've always been told, eat the meat, throw out the bones, and so that's what we want people to do here. And so a lot of great advice that we've heard from Scott, the co-host here at the call. And for someone looking into getting into hunting or fishing, what advice would you offer them to start off right?
I think the first thing that I would say is pick one that you think you would like to do, right? Whether it be fishing, deer hunting, turkey hunting, or duck hunting. That would be the first thing. Find one. Focus on one. Second of all is ask a ton of questions, right? Find out on the beginning if you like it or not. Find out what equipment that you need and what you don't need. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. Guys, that's the biggest thing that I think that we grow up in a society where we're afraid to ask older people or some things. We don't feel like we have the I'm going to say this, the skill set. And the one most important skill set as a young person, or even people in their thing, is people skills. If you're around me for any length of time, the first thing I tell you is the most valued skill that no educator can teach you is personal skills. Maximize those personal skills, because if you do that, people are going to open up. They're going to help you out. Not only that, but guess what? You're going to find the hunting buddy, right? You're going to have somebody that's going to say, come on, you can go with me. I'll teach you everything I need to know. Then maybe they give you some good lessons. Maybe they give you some bad lessons. Then you're going to find somebody else. It's going to be an ongoing evolution of learning from that experience. And I think through that, if you look at it as, you know what, every day I get to go out here is a great day. It is an absolutely great day. And I always say this, one of my good friends, Terry, we used to have a saying, I'd rather be doing this than being at work. That's the way I look at it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And how do you find that? I mean, how do you find men to do those things with? How do you, a lot of times guys are stuck in an office, they're stuck in, at a job like you said, where they're just working 9 to 5, and
they're listening to this podcast.
And they're listening to this podcast, we hope, or you're going to listen and tune in.
Yeah.
But how, and I think what you said is so profound. It's finding a buddy, it's learning, finding somebody that you can have a like interest in, and iron sharpens iron.
Right.
We're biblical men. We talk, we talk about God and the Bible and stuff, and so it's finding men that will help you grow in that. And so as we bring this thing to a close, Scott, thank you so much for just. Because Scott came into this podcast blind. He didn't have a clue what questions I was going to hit him with. And I've really enjoyed just having this conversation. It's kind of like Hank Williams Jr. and Waylon Jennings, you know.
Yeah, that is it.
We got some conversation, but you didn't tell me about your daddy, but you did. You told me about your daddy, and so. But we appreciate you guys tuning in and bearing with us and listening to what we have to say, and every week we hope to bring you great material and great advice, and so just keep liking and subscribing. Go to our social media pages. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube. Yeah. YouTube's our big thing. We want to really grow that platform in case TikTok goes away. We don't know what's going to happen in the future there. Yeah. So our TikTok, and then our podcast is on Spotify and Podbean, and so go check those out, like them, follow them, and we really are planning a great calendar of bringing in some cool guests and talking to some men here in our community, outside our community, professionals, hunters. And so
maybe we'll learn a little bit about everything. Maybe we'll get some stock tips.
Yeah,
you never know.
Exactly. Yeah,
some great stories.
We're going to cover every spectrum of manhood that we can. Okay, and so and just helping men to become better men and answering the call to be that and what God's called you to be. So Scott, thank you again for just hanging out. I mean, like I said, I wish we'd have hung out 20 years ago. I wish I could have met Scott 20 years ago and just been buddies.
We would be in trouble, Stacy. That could have been the big thing.
100%. I have no doubt about that.
I want y'all to be highly favored and blessed, man. That's what, until we meet again.
That's right.
On the call.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.